In this video, we're going to talk about budgets. So, when you're setting up a budget, we have to have an understanding between needs versus wants. So, a need would be some sort of item that is necessary to live. So, it would be some sort of item necessary to live. Now, let's kind of talk about what that means. So, of course, um, housing, food, right? Clothes, everybody needs clothes. That doesn't mean you should always be buying new clothes, but you do need a certain amount of clothing. You probably need to keep yourself clean, right? Um, and you need maybe transportation, healthcare, right? Okay, we get the idea here. So there are lots of things that fall into the needs category, things that you need to survive. Um, and there are some arguments that certain items can fall into the wants category, depending on what it is. So let's talk about wants. So wants then are, sorry, that should be plural, items, are items that make life more comfortable. So there is a place for wants, and it is important to be able to make your life more comfortable, right? Otherwise, things aren't always going to go very well. So under here, I'll put maybe expensive clothes, right? If you are somebody who gets designer clothes, that's probably not necessarily smart if you don't have the budget for it. Or maybe you are buying clothing that may only be used once, some sort of fancy item that'll only be used one time. Another example of things that are wants, and most people don't want to say this, but it's true. Some sort of streaming service, or a high-end cell phone. You know how there are people who always need the latest cell phone that comes out, the latest Apple or whatever it is. Okay. Those are really wants. Now, of course, there's an argument that having a cell phone for emergencies is important. Yes, but you probably don't need the most expensive cell phone to do that. And I'd even say you probably don't even need a smartphone to do that. All right, we're not going to get too far into there, but you get the idea. There are arguments for needs versus wants. Now, let's go ahead and look at some basic terminology whenever we're talking about budgets. Okay. So we have what's called the gross monthly income. That is what you take home, period. It's the money that they're paying, your company or business is paying you every month. So it is your take home. Well, no, I shouldn't word it that way because some people refer to that for adjusted. So it is the money you earn. And then let me qualify, that's like before taxes. So the adjusted income is the actual money you get to use. And a lot of people refer to that as take home pay. That's why I changed that phrasing a second ago. The take home pay, but it is after taxes. Or if you your company takes out for retirement, or Social Security. Here, I'll put SS for Social Security, etc. Whatever's being taken out, okay? It's what you actually get to spend after all of that gets removed from your income. Okay, fixed costs. So fixed costs are costs that never change. They're always going to be the same every month. So if you have rent, typically you agree to pay a certain rent every month for a period of time. Usually if you sign a lease, or if you have a home, it's the mortgage, right? You made a deal with the bank for a loan that will cause the constant payment every month. So that's typically what we have for our housing. Fixed costs, costs that don't change. It's constant every month. Then there are variable costs. Now, these are costs that do change. but are something you have to take into account. Like if you have a car, gas. We all know that the cost of gas changes. Of course, how much you drive sometimes might change. Maybe you drive for your job. Maybe it's you go pick up a friend at the airport and you drive a couple hours to go do that. So those are kind of the terminology we want to be aware of when you're talking about budgets. Okay, so just to kind of a practice of understanding needs versus wants, let's go ahead and take a second, and I would pause the video if I were you, and label which ones you believe are wants and which ones you believe are needs. I think some are obvious and some are less obvious. And then go ahead and hit resume, but I'm going to go ahead and start. So I would argue that for most, cosmetics are wants and not needs. Yes, I understand that there are some cases where people make their living being social media influencers, so beauty products might be necessary in their mind, but I would say that's still a want because it's a very specific example. All right. Clothing, that's a need. And the reason it's a need is because you can't walk around naked, right? You'll get arrested for that. Housing, okay, that's a need. Netflix subscription. Now I know some people will be like, well, if I do Netflix, then I can avoid other expenses. I understand that, but it's still a want. It is. I shouldn't be plural on the want up there. Okay. Groceries, that's a need. Movie night, that's a want. Vacation, unfortunately, it's a want. Now, again, I know there are arguments to be said for, well, you should take a vacation for your mental health. I understand that. I do. I understand that. But of course, you don't necessarily have to go somewhere for a vacation or spend money on a vacation. But we're implying that these are things that are going to be spent money on. Electric and gas, those are needs. Childcare, that's a need. Most people have to have childcare in order to work. So that is a need. Eating out, no, that's a want. Health insurance, that's a need. I know there's some people who would argue, well, if you're healthy, you don't need health insurance. And I understand that. But in an accident, like for survival purposes, you really do need health insurance. Transportation, yeah, that is definitely a need. Some way of getting somewhere. You need that. All right. Of course, I understand that there are some people who work from home who maybe don't really need to go out very often. I get that. But once again, what if you get hurt or your child gets hurt or something like that? You may need to transport them to the hospital and maybe the ambulance will take too long to come to your house and go back. So you need to transport them. There you go. There's transportation needs. So we're kind of thinking of these in terms of life and death. Are there life and death things attached to these? That's how we're qualifying for need versus want. All right. But there are arguments. There really are. And I understand that for certain people, we might be able to qualify things differently. We're not going to get into that. We're just going to kind of do it in general. So let's kind of use this idea in this example. This example, we have Michael, who's a father of 2 children. He's a maintenance man at a shipyard. He has a wife who stays at home with the kids. He works 40 hours a week, earns $15 an hour, gets it paid every Friday, and his take-home pay is approximately $480. Okay, so he has several things he needs to purchase, and we're going to classify them as needs versus wants, understanding that his wife is staying home and he has these 2 children that they're taking care of. Okay, so here we go. Let's go ahead and do some classification. Again, if you want to pause the video and do this classification yourself first and then see what I did, that's fine. But here we go. So they've already classified the water bill for us as a need. Of course it is. You need water to live. Gallon of milk. Yes, I am going to go ahead and qualify that as a need. I don't know how old the children are. It's very possible that the children need the milk. So we'll go ahead and qualify that as a basic, I'm not going to put the dollar sign, a basic need that's required for life. Electric bill, yes. Movie tickets, that's a want. Dinner after the movie, I know that we're all like, oh, they need that. They might, but it's still a want. They don't need it to survive. Babysitter then would then also be a want because they don't have to go out. Oil change, well, we're assuming that's required for transportation, so that'll be a need. Diapers and baby wipes, yeah, we're gonna go ahead and assume that's a need. Gotta keep those children healthy. Bread, rice, eggs, okay, yeah, that's qualified as grocery items that aren't extras. 45. Okay, so here's an example of a grocery item that isn't necessary. Ben and Jerry's ice cream, this brand that's pretty expensive, well known. Yeah, that's a want. Get a lesser known brand. Lunch out, doesn't bring his lunch to work. That's a want. Baby soap, shampoo, that's a need. Paper towels and tissue, yep. Decorative rug, that is most definitely a want. Okay, so here, I'm going to zoom out here so I could see the entire table. Oops, sorry. Okay, so we're going to total these. So get your calculator. I'm so sorry. That's annoyed because I keep touching the screen. Get your calculator and start totaling then the needs versus wants. And then after you're done, we're going to answer the following questions below. So here, I'm literally inputting this as we're doing, or as I'm talking, I should say. Okay, so I am getting 255. Oops. Stop it. Oh, got mad at me. Sorry, let me decrease it and increase it again. Interesting. I have managed to stall this out. You attach my keyboard. Okay. Let's see if that resets it. It didn't. So I get to stop the video.